Hello and welcome back. Now, today I'd like to talk about something that has completely changed the way that I look at life. If you are anything like many of the women I speak to, perhaps you've reached the stage where you're asking yourself, is this all there is? Maybe you've had a successful career, perhaps you've raised a family, you've spent years looking after everybody else, building a life, working hard, doing all those things that you were supposed to do. But now there's a quiet voice inside that's asking, what's next for me? Now, I know that feeling because I have been there myself. For over 35 years, I have worked as an optometrist. I've loved helping people, and it was a wonderful profession. But eventually I realized something. I wasn't looking for retirement. I was looking for reinvention. At first, I thought that what I needed was a new business. So I thought that I needed better marketing skills, more confidence, more knowledge, a better strategy. But looking back, I realized that those things weren't the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge for me really was specifically the identity that I had created over decades. Because here's what I have learned. You cannot create a new future while holding on to an old identity. And I don't necessarily mean changing the beliefs that you hold about yourself, changing the stories that you tell yourself, changing what you believe is possible. Because so many people, so many of us try and build a new chapter while still thinking like the person who created the previous one. So we want different results, but we're making decisions from exactly the same frame of reference. So it's a bit like driving to a destination that you've never been to before while refusing to leave the road that you're already on. And of course, you just simply will not get there. So for me, one of the biggest shifts was moving from thinking like an employee to thinking like an entrepreneur. And for decades, I had been trained to value certainty. I am someone who loves having control, who knows the answers, who is able to avoid mistakes, someone who's very careful. I stay inside my comfort zone. And those qualities have served me well in my profession, but they weren't enough to build something completely different. In order to do that, I had to become somebody different, someone who is comfortable learning and comfortable failing. I had to become comfortable putting myself out there, being prepared to hear no, comfortable doing things that I'd never done before, and comfortable with being judged. Because this wasn't a business strategy, this was an identity shift. And I think this is where so many people get stuck. They say to themselves, I don't think I could do that. I'm not good with technology. I'm not confident enough. I'm not the type of person who starts a business. All these different things, and just notice those words, that I am this, I am this person, I am that person, and that's identifying yourself. This is being a certain type of person. That's an identity. And the problem with identities is that our brains work incredibly hard to prove them right. So if you think that you're someone who's not good with technology, then everything that you do is going to feed into that belief. And every challenge is going to become evidence of that being true. If you believe that you're not confident, you're going to avoid any situations that would help you become confident. And years ago, I did come across a quote that stayed with me ever since. Every next level of your life will demand a different version of you. And I really believe that that's true, because every meaningful change that I've experienced in my life has required for me to become somebody different. And that doesn't mean a different person, but it's really more a different version of myself, a more expanded version of myself. So someone who thought differently, someone who made different decisions, developed different habits, and therefore also expected different outcomes. Now, how often do we assume that we know that what we're capable of? How often do we assume that it's too late, or assume that we are not smart enough, or assume that everybody else has everything together, has something that we don't have? Because those assumptions that we make will quietly shape our identity. Now, another lesson that's influenced me comes from personal development, which is very close to my heart. So our lives don't change because we wish they would. They change because we become the kind of person who naturally creates different results. And when I look back over my life over the last decade, I can honestly say that the biggest changes in my life weren't external. Yes, I built an online business. Yes, I've had the privilege of traveling while working, and I have met the most incredible people around the world. But those things weren't simply the outcome. So the real transformation happened inside because I became more resilient. I became more open, more willing to back myself, more curious, and more willing to learn. And perhaps most importantly, more willing to let go of the version of myself that no longer served me. And maybe that's where you are today. Perhaps you're standing on the edge of your next chapter. You know something needs to change, but you're waiting until you feel ready. And that time really never comes, because what I have discovered is you don't become ready first. You become ready by taking that first step. So confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence follows action. So the woman that you want to become is built one decision at a time. One courageous conversation, one new skill, one uncomfortable moment, one small step outside your comfort zone. So instead of asking yourself, what should I do next? I would encourage you to ask some different questions. Questions like, who do I need to become? Who do I need to become if I want more freedom? Who do I want to become if I want more purpose? Who do I need to become if I want to create a life that truly excites me? Because once you start answering those questions, your decisions start to change, your habits start to change, and therefore your opportunities begin to change. And eventually, your life begins to change as well. So I'd love to know your thoughts. Have you ever experienced an identity shift in your own life? Or perhaps you're right at the beginning of one right now. So leave me a comment below. I genuinely read each one. And if you did enjoy this conversation, I would love you to subscribe, because each week I'll be sharing ideas around personal growth, leadership, and creating a meaningful next chapter, especially for women who know that there's still so much more life to live. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, remember to make every day count.